Good morning from Australia. Good story, The Boy Who Cried Wolf. I'm sure most of you have read it. Many versions of it as well. Same outcome though. Get out of there. How are you all this morning? I hope everyone is well. It's Sunday morning and I have a hinkering to go make some bacon and eggs shortly. What do you reckon? Do you like a bit of bacon and egg? No?
No,
Extraordinary.
I'm not hungry.
Crunchy bacon. Egg done how you like it. In that bun.
Yeah.
Morning, Cameo. You remember the fable, The Boy Who Cried Wolf, Cameo? There's lots of wolves and crying on YouTube. It's a never-ending story on YouTube. Yeah, actually, Vinny, this is only our really first day of beautiful sunshine in the morning. We've had an unusually push of two Antarctic fronts, and so one just followed the other. And as you can see by the backyard, it's green. It was just dust 3 weeks ago. There's the old man crow. But yeah, there's lots of boys and girls on YouTube who cry wolf. Oh, this has happened. I don't know what's gonna. And someone find out. No, it didn't happen. Edgar Allan Crow. That's very quick, Cameo. I'm going to give you 9 out of 10 for that one. I get it.
Yes.
But there's so many of them that cry wolf. And this happened. I'm dying of, and I've got this. No, you haven't. Okay, I'll try something else. All right, I did, and that happened. And oh, no, it didn't happen. It's just a continual facade. It's absurd. I mean, what's happening to their real lives? Edgar, all right, in honour of your past crow, we'll call this one Poe. How's that? And if we get another one that wanders around the yard, we'll call him Alan.
Well, we actually have about 5 that come.
We do, don't we?
Mm.
Actually, we had, I put the camera on last night because we've had the kookaburras singing goodnight to us every night for about 4 nights, and they didn't show up until the last minute. And then they were way over on a big tree about a mile away. You could only just hear them. Morning, Ivy. I'm trying to convince the wife it's bacon and egg time, but she's going, I'm not hungry. Which means we don't eat. I sit here starving, crying like a little boy about wolves.
You go make it.
I'll make it when we're ready. Got 2 big fresh buns there. That's going to be 3 rashers of bacon in each bun. I make an egg mix up because the wife doesn't like runny eggs. I don't like runny eggs.
I don't like scrambled eggs either.
Bit fussy.
I like it dead, bouncing off the floor.
Yeah, that's true. Like a steak.
Yeah.
You could lay her steak as a tile. All we'd have to do is grout between steaks. There's another crow on the roof. Can you see that?
Yeah.
So we've got Alan and Poe are here now, Cameo. They're going to say good day to each other. But I wonder, hello Scarlett, I wonder who the next, we use these words loosely, character on YouTube that's going to cry wolf at the tragedy unfolding. There's always someone that takes up the mantle. Someone's either dying of a fictitious disease, or they've, suddenly got no money at all, but they drive around in a nice car.
I need Super Chat for chocolate.
Have you got no chocolate left?
No.
You've got chocolate biscuits in there, I've seen them.
No, that's not
Tim Tams.
Oh yeah, I got Tim Tams.
It's sort of like when you can't get your drug of chocolate, you always can turn to a Tim Tam.
I'm playing a game, so I can't say hello. So hello,
Yeah,
everybody.
there she is. She's playing a game of some sort.
A kiss for everybody. I love yous. Love, love, love.
We'll just ignore that.
No.
You can't love someone you haven't met
Yes, I can.
or have meaning in life.
Yeah, I love them as a friend.
Scarlett understands the need for chocolate. Actually, you could just start a channel with prizes being chocolate. You'd have, I don't know, 100,000 women competing. Chocolate's good for you, apparently, in certain quantities. It's funny though, isn't it? Each year, and Vinny knows this one, each year there'll be a medical paper come out saying red wine is dangerous for you, don't drink it. And then
Yeah.
6 months later, there's another scientific facility that was saying 2 glasses of red wine a day actually help the heart.
Yeah.
And it goes on and on and on. Don't eat chocolate. People say, oh, a bit of chocolate's good for you. Just eat what you damn well want to eat.
I remember when it was eggs and then peanut butter.
Yes, I believe that your God, Scarlett, is probably just a very large Malteser. But it's, it goes on. I get annoyed by it. I mean, everything in moderation's okay, I think. I mean, I wouldn't have like a bucket of anchovies. That's
Really?
not going to happen
Wouldn't have it
because I
at
don't
all.
like them. Even if someone said to me, anchovies will extend your life, I'd be saying, well, I'm obviously dying young. It's about the only food I don't like. It comes from a bad experience. As a young man, someone invited me around for pizza. And he says, how into that, mate? You'll love that. So I took a big bite, about 3 anchovies in there. I think I turned blue. I'm not sure. So that was the end of anchovy. And I tried them later in life. Yeah, you can mix them in
Nope.
to a cooking dish, but just the thought of them puts me off.
They're very strong. They take over a dish.
Yep, I believe that completely. Scarlett, you know, like when you suddenly say, oh, I feel like a steak. I bet your body's saying, we need some more iron and protein. Okay, punch this through the brain computer. Oh, I think I need a steak. I haven't seen Tucker for a few days, but I'm glad he's resting. The recovery period now is, you know, you've got tissues that have been cut and torn, and so he needs rest. But he's doing remarkably well. There's no question about that. But yeah, there are so many. There's a plethora of them. There's so many of these mongrels that will tell you just outright lies on YouTube. And a lot of people get caught in the trap and become gullible to the lies. And then some, after they realise that it's just somebody been crying wolf, still try and defend them because it's like, well, I've been with them for a period. You don't have to do that. If you find out someone is saying something that's just bullshit, just walk away. It's very simple. You don't have to justify or be embarrassed, and that's what I think some people are, that they're embarrassed to have been associated with something so ridiculous. Good morning, Hillbilly. You come near me with a microwave, Hillbilly, I'm going to tear you. I'm going to open you up.
Who?
Hillbilly. He's threatening me with a microwave. Do you know what happened to Braveheart? Yeah, that's what's going to happen to you. You're going to be drawn and quartered and a microwave shoved up your clacker. Bloody microwaves. I use them to defrost. I don't use microwaves to cook. They're awful. It's like people say to me, oh, but I've got to thaw the frozen meat. And I'm thinking, oh, well, how about you take it out the night before, numbskull? Just leave it in the fridge. Oh, does that work? Yeah, it does. You don't need a microwave. They go, oh, okay. That's all you have to do. Take something frozen out the day before, and next day it's ready to use.
Danny G's in there. You didn't say about
Oh, I don't see everyone. I apologise. Hello, Danny G.
She said you're up early.
No, I'm not. What is it? 9:30 in the morning here. Nearly lunchtime where Vinny is. So you've been getting a lot of heat, Hillbilly? You've been getting a heat wave where you are, or have you missed that? Because it's pretty hot in Kentucky most of the time, let's be honest, during summer. We're getting 20 degrees Celsius today, 90 F. Oh well, it's summer. Call that a microwave? Here's a microwave. Best video Hillbilly ever sent me to watch was a microwave being blown up by dynamite. That got me going. You little ripper. We are going to find a book of Australian slang, which is, to us, not slang. It's just part of our colloquial language. But it'll be fun reading for someone to get the gist of how and why we say what we say. And we say it in different circumstances. Like blokes will talk to blokes differently than blokes talking to women. Sheila's, you know what I mean? She's all right, Sheila, isn't she? She's a beauty. Stone the crows. How much Australian slang do you people know? I'm curious. A few of you would know some. Oh look, a purple Sasquatch.
I have to walk in front so I can go make a cuppa.
We say Betty in the US, referring to what? It's good? She's making another cuppa. It's Sunday morning. I love Sundays. Usually because I know I've got bacon in the fridge. A pretty woman, okay? Get off the grass, it means get off your ass. We have a lot of cockney thrown into our colloquial language. There's a mixture because of different cultures that arrived in Australia, but we have a unique way. Like, we have many words for idiots or fools. Like, you could be a blonk, you could be a drongo, you could be a buffhead. There's a huge list of words we use for idiots. And we use, and it's in the dictionary, the word fuck. It is in the dictionary, so I'm not saying anything out of context. This is in the context of our discussion, of course. I'm not being rude. But if something exciting happened, and say you won a couple of $1,000 in the lottery, you'd say, fuck me. Seriously, that's what you'd say. Or maybe you saw like something extraordinary, you'd say something like, effing brilliant. Dolt. Yeah, dolt's an old English word, Scotty. Scotty. Hey, Scotty, beam me up. Scarlet, I apologise. Adult. There's plenty of adults on YouTube. Yeah, birds are smart for what they are. There's no question about that. Like I say, we've got two magpies that talk, literally. One says, how you going? Seriously, in an Australian accent. Another one says, all right then. Obviously they were with humans that said those words. They mimic. But these same magpies do a kookaburra sound at night time, just to piss the kookaburras off. It's true. Normally the maggies will start with the kookaburra sound and then the real cookies kick in. Yeah, see, imbecile is not a common word in Australia. Usually for imbecile, the word would be replaced with dickhead. Two Australians could be what you would assume, screaming and shouting at each other in all this colloquial language. And then they're the same two at the bar later having a bit of a laugh and having a drink. A lot of foreigners get a little bit confused. Like, just a tip for Americans when you come to Australia. If you go to Vinny's place for lunch and you look up at him and say, thank you, sir, he'll probably punch you between the eyes. You don't say sir in Australia. We have a disdain for the British heritage of having to answer that way. We don't say that at all. It's a bit of an offence. But you could say to Vinny, as you sat down to lunch, and he looked at you, you'd say to him, "There you go, you old bastard." And he'd smile and top up your beer. I don't think that would happen in the US. Imagine if I went round to Cameo's place and said, "There you go, you old bastard." Probably lay me out. Though I don't do that when I'm around the world. I just say, "How you going? G'day." But sometimes it's the context of how something is said more than the words. Someone can be really angry at you and not seem to be saying anything bad. You can call people bastard, yeah. It sounds ironic, but it's a term of endearment in Australia. I wouldn't be offended. I'd just say to you, mate, I've got friends in Texas and they know already. They know not to address me as sir or ma'am. Definitely not mum, because I don't look like a mum. But no, I just say, no, don't say that, mate. We don't like that sort of, even though it's meant to be polite, and that's how it's said by Americans, it's an inference that I'm better than you. And Aussies don't like that. We don't think we're better than anyone. We're equal. When you use the word sir, it implies that a serf, or someone lower than you, is talking to you. And like I say, we don't like that heritage from the British at all. Yeah, no, everyone's equal in my eyes, until I find out you're a dickhead, a Blanc, Drongo or a buffhead. And I'll bring you down and crush you. Anyway, breaking news. My wife's team played my team last night in the local footy, the AFL. And I predicted my team would win by 11 goals. And I was wrong. They won by 14. No, even a doctor, I just say, "There you go, mate, all right?" He said, "Yeah, good, mate. Sit down." I don't know. For me, I've met two prime ministers in my country. One, John Howard, who I told him he was a total dickhead to his face for sending my fellow Australians to war, in a war that had nothing to do with us. And this was the Iraq War. Two security officers. One looked at me, winked and smiled. The other one just kept a stern face. But I said that right to John Howard's face. I mean, inches away. I didn't get arrested. I was fortunate enough a few years later to have a beer in Vietnam. We were just there on holiday, and there was ex-Prime Minister Bob Hawke. And our discussion actually was to do with the leader of the opposition at the time, a guy called Mark Latham, who was a total dickhead. I said, "Bob, when are you going to get rid of him?" He said, "Don't worry, the wheels are in motion." And sure enough, he had an influence in that. Mark Latham was given the boot. Can you imagine sitting down with a US president, looking him in the eye and saying, "You're a total dickhead"? How do you reckon you'd go? And what's the chance that you would be able to sit down with your president and have a beer with him and a bit of a laugh? I think the answer would be unlikely. But you've got, like I say, you've got even Aussie legends, if you like, of sport and of movies. A couple do live in gated communities, but most of them just live amongst the other people. You'll often go down the shop and you'll meet someone who's a bit of a legend in some sort of sport or movie. You just say, "How you going?" "Yeah, good." I don't think they realise Australians aren't starstruck. Do you know what I mean? We don't line the streets to wave to Nicole Kidman. If Nicole walked by and said, "How you going?" she said, "Yeah, good, good." So there's that Hollywood Boulevard syndrome is not existent in Australia. Chris Hemsworth, you probably know him. He comes up to our area and up the north and goes surfing and stopping and has a chat with people. If he's having a barbecue, or throw a few sausages on for everyone else. They recently gave Chris and another guy were, "Geez, mate, did he pay you to do that?" I've met Warwick. He's a total knobhead, Vinny. Let's be honest. I bet that was your opinion when you left him. He always used to use the word, how good am I? Don't ask me, I'll tell you. He's funny, Warwick, though, but total knobhead, no question. It reminds me of a very short Fabio. But we're not. Warwick Capper, who Vinny's talking about, was a very good footballer. A knobhead the same, but a good footballer for the Sydney Swans. In the end, of course, he played for another team prior to that. G'day, Lols. How are you? Lewis. I'm going to call you Lois. How's that? But, I mean, I bet Vinny walks past the odd movie star, some legend of sport, because we do it all the time here, and we don't make a fuss. We don't get that. We don't get that, you know, we call it the tall poppy syndrome, where someone is really, really popular or good, and some people whinge about it, and that's true. But if you met those people in the street, you just say g'day. I remember meeting Jeff Fennick, and all his bravado on screen doesn't exist when you meet him in real life. Very polite, very courteous. He's had a bit of a checkered career himself, but so there isn't this, you know, sir or madam. Seriously, if you went to Vinny's place and said, thank you, sir, I'm pretty sure it'd smack you between the teeth. So get the F out of here. Call me that again and I'll shoot you. We don't like it in Australia. I don't know, it's just, certainly in my state that's the case. We don't like that crap. Scarlett sat down on the edge of the stage, drinking the vodka. She was full of rage. Bob Dylan, good singer. Bob Dylan's songs are all about protest, most of them. Some aren't, but most of them are. He was in the era of a few very good singer-songwriters that I believe influenced the end of the Vietnam War. I've no doubt. No doubt at all. The Beatles were in there as well. You're right on stage, you're playing the drums, I reckon, Scarlett. Who did I meet in Australia that came from the US? I met a few. So even like Arnold Schwarzenegger, who'll come to Australia, and he'll just go to a pub and have a beer and chat to people. Of course, they'll surround him and ask for his autograph, but they don't hassle him in the thousands. Yeah, I can't think of an Australian actor, and we have plenty that are in Hollywood, who even bothers with crap like that. Yeah, we've had, like I say, I think probably some of the best music. Yeah, no, Australia, the only thing Australians would say to Tom is, how's your lamb? Walk past him. Because it's an ad on TV here. Would you rather have a lamb dinner or meet Tom Cruise? And everyone says, I'll have the lamb dinner, thanks. Mind you, if you walk past Tom Cruise, you'd be thinking, I wonder where that midget's from. Is there a circus in town? He is very short. When I was in Madame Tussauds in London, it fits under my armpit. He's that short. Seriously. Aussies don't really talk about their money. They don't talk about their families when they're meeting new people. They might say, if you ask them how many kids you got, they say, yeah, I've got 5 kids. But you'd have to squeeze and get to know them a lot better to get any further information. We meet on the first level. Very pleasant, polite, but we give people enough rope. And when they've made it real tight and we realise they're a dickhead, we pull it and they're finished. Yeah, I'll try and get a close-up of Edgar, as Cameo says. There you go, I think I'm going to be closer. That is a crow. Staying the crows. And that, believe it or not, more exciting is grass. Because normally that's just sand. 2 inches of rain in the last week. That's the crow.
How you doing, mate? Hello.
The magpies will be here shortly. Just to zoom back out a bit. It's about time they came around for food, isn't it, the Maggies? Pretty soon.
Sorry. My big body in front of the camera.
Yeah, ravens are a little bit bigger. Get ravens in Victoria. I've seen them in Victoria. I think I've seen them in the Blue Mountains. I definitely saw them at the castles around the UK. They're probably about nearly double the size, a big raven. And they seem a bit more sheenier. Do you know what I mean? Crows are pretty shiny, but ravens are very sheeny, sort of bluish tinge on their black.
Actually, ravens are bigger. The ravens that were at...
Oh, they're twice the size of our crows.
Yeah, I love crows too, Scarlett.
Hello, Terry. How are you?
Hi, Terry.
I think our magpies may be sleeping in on Sunday.
Turn it that way a bit more. You got my nose in the picture. Looks big.
Whinge, 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 effing whinge. As Chopper would say. Matt, we do. We have 2 magpies that talk that come here. One says, "There you going?" All right then, the other one says. It's learned.
Yeah, we reckon that obviously somebody looked after them when they were young.
Good night, Danny. May the force be with you.
Right, Danny.
If you've got any questions about how Australians talk, ask away. Vinny's here. I'm here. The missus is here. Like, how do Australians say goodbye? Like, I've been to Vinny's and had a barbecue, we hop in the car, about to go. There's several ways we say goodbye. See you later, one of them. Check you later.
Catch you later.
Hooroo.
Like, let's face it, true Aussie slang, a lot of Aussies don't talk like that.
I grew up with Aboriginals in my country, and it's definitely the same here. It's definitely, in other words, it's ancestors visiting. You'll often have, when I worked in the prison system, you'd have a couple of crows land, and I kid you not, 3 or 4 Aboriginal boys would bolt, just run away, because they believe within the crow is the ability to harm as well. In other words, the Kadaitcha man, which is a sort of a spirit, can be fed through the crow. So those that have done real wrong bolt like the wind because they think the crow is coming there to punish them.
Well, yeah,
So it's a dead ancestor, basically.
I never see any negativity of any of the animals. A crow is also a shapeshifter, but then you've also got the birds that it's amazingly hangs around palliative care.
Live on Channel 9.
Oh, shut up. Birds that hang around palliative care in Australia, they're called the 12 Apostles. They're so cute little bird and dart in and out, and they come quite close to you. There was a lot hanging around.
I was just hanging around you, I know.
Hanging around when Dad was in palliative care, and they sort of came right up nearly into his room, and then a couple of hours later he passed. But they're very respected.
I wasn't there, but my 2 sisters tell me this happened. It's an old tradition in my English side of my heritage, and it was to do with my mother was near death, and we'd been in and out of palliative care with her for quite a while, and we were so tired we went home for a little while. My sister was half asleep at the table, and a crow banged into the window, flew straight into the window, dazed, and then flew off again. My sister called me straight away and said, "I think Mum's passed." So we went straight down to the hospital. We checked the time that the bird hit the window, and that was the time that Mum passed away.
Yeah, see, some of the Germans with crows believe that because Mum didn't like it just before Dad was taken to hospital before he died. She had like a massive amount of crows coming to the yard. she just never liked it. She always felt that, oh, somebody's going to go. When a heap of crows come around, they're going to, and it's in a positive, loving way. They're coming to take someone and help them pass over.
Well, a mob of crows or a group of crows is called a murder.
So yeah, all animals, very interesting.
Yeah, that's a bit, I didn't miss at all the fact that it wasn't the bird or anything like that. It was just a message. Lewis, that's what I'm trying to say. It was a message. I don't hold the bird responsible at all.
No, they're just...
Some people, and this is true, I spoke to a doctor about this, and he said, yeah, it's true. He worked in palliative care, and he said, what a lot of people do, they don't like you to see them pass. So they will hang on until you go home and have a shower, and then they'll go.
That's what Dad did, but
Yeah.
all
But that's
the birds...
you have the ability to sustain your own life a little bit further than you should have. But if that's what you want to do, is to pass and not put people through any suffering, that's what you do. We love birds. We feed them. We're going to have, right down in that back corner, down there, will be a big area for feeding birds. Hopefully this week we might be able to hear from the powers that be in the council that we can move ahead and start building.
Well, the guy said another 2 to 3 weeks.
Well, if a robin flew into my house here, it would have flown 17,000 miles. We don't get robins. We get something that looks similar called a willy wagtail. They're so funny, willy wagtails. They just bounce around with the tail spinning all the time. That's what we call them, willy wagtails. Yeah, and even the reverse, as you say, I was about to say the same thing. They can hang on. They'll ask when the daughter's arriving, and they'll say, oh, just a couple of days. And through pure will alone. It's called, as the doctor said, it's called running on empty. There's nothing left. They should not be here, but they wait. Yes, that's what happened with our mother. That's what happened with my wife's father. It's like the final piece of dignity for themselves. They don't want to see someone, as they're passing, they don't want to see you under enormous stress.
No, Dad waited till everyone left. Mum waited till Terry got there, and then I had on, what do you call it? FaceTime. I had the rest of the kids talking to Mum, and then she passed.
It's one of those strange things. I mean, if you're the person who's dying, if you can think in that context for a moment, yeah, I don't want people to be unduly upset. So I would wait till they left as well, I suppose. Just because I don't want them to suffer. I know I'm going. There's nothing going to stop that. But, you know, there's a lot of mourning and sadness during the dying process. I think everyone that's ever died that I've known, I feel relieved after they've died, knowing they're no longer in pain, they're no longer totally incapacitated, and they're now free of all that trauma. So it's a good feeling. I know people, unless you've had someone really close to you pass, you don't understand what I just said. It's because it's so important to know that they're no longer suffering. Yeah, I believe, yeah. I mean, we don't know when we're going, Scarlett, but I have an acceptance of the fact I ain't living forever. That's not going to happen.
Damn.
You know? And it's like some people, there's a syndrome where people want the world to end when they pass. They don't want anything to happen. And don't anyone religious get offended here, but a lot of people believe that when they pass, they'll be entering the kingdom, and so there's that reward. However, they also believe if that's the case, that means the world's ended, it's been punished, and everyone's with them in heaven. It's a very selfish thought when you think about it. I don't mind if there is a heaven, and if it takes another 10 billion years before it happens, that's okay. I'm asleep. For me, it'll be a blink of an eyelid. With that little container you can see in front, that little bird feeder, we've got one for feeding the birds and we've got one for the water. That water's been full for a week because the rain has just kept coming.
Yep, I believe that too, Scarlett. We create our own heaven and hell.
I
Hell
know.
can be
There is no hell.
hell can be what you're living now for some people.
Just imagine there's no heaven, no hell below us. I think we're all part of the same thing, Scarlett. Tucker has witnessed some of that by the unity of many people putting their love and thoughts and efforts spiritually to help him. He has seen it firsthand, no question. And like I said to him, you don't need to understand it. It's not that important to understand why. How, you'll never know. But because I believe that we're all part of the same thing, and if you go back through evolution, if you believe that, or if you went back through theology, we are all part of the same thing. The story is the same. There was a beginning. There's no argument. There's no religious argument with me, or vice versa, saying, well, no, it's either one or the other. It can be the same. In other words, we're all connected by the beginning, and I believe we'll all be connected by the end. We are what we were before we were, is a famous saying. In other words, there is no change in who we are, whether we're alive, not yet born, or passed on. That essence is part of a bigger picture. And that's good to know. That's my belief. I believe we're all part of the same thing, and we have an incredible resonance around the globe. Yeah. I don't see it as a beginning or an end. I just see it as a circle myself. Yep, energy. We all have an incredible amount of energy. We really do. And for some people, they've witnessed a bit of it through our good friend Tucker. He has been given a river of energy. That's the best way I can describe it to you. And it's still flowing, and it stays with him. It's something that we give, that we never ask back. So he gets to keep it. And he'll tell some stories as the months and years unfold. I'm sure he will. But we have such an ability to do good. Unbelievable abilities we have. Physically, we can help people. Spiritually, we can help them even more. Because when you give someone something that they can then use, they're like a steam train. In other words, they will pick up their lives financially, emotionally, physically. It's something that we can give freely. I also believe, and I would never use that at all, is that you can bring down people using the same energy, if you like. So we get a choice, is what I'm saying. We get a choice to use that energy the way we feel fit. Yeah, Lewis, I think it's a reflection more than a projection. What I mean by that is that the world's in a bad place. We're on a very rocky edge. There are so many things happening that are negative. So that impacts us. So we may think that same way. All I can say is fight it. Don't think that way. And focus on the positive things, your family, your loved ones, your friends, because there's a certain demographic that can actually determine how the world's thinking at the moment, and that's called Google, believe it or not. Google can tell you how the world's thinking. They've had that ability for about 10 years. And at the moment, the world's thinking pretty crappy. We're on the edge of war again. We're in an area where even in the Western societies that are supposed to be affluent, there's unrest. The United States is a classic example. I said to someone the other day, if civil war broke out in the US, you wouldn't know who you're fighting. There are so many factions that don't like each other. There's not going to be a red and there's not going to be a blue, is what I'm saying. I don't want it to happen. But if it did happen, it wouldn't be a case of one side fighting another. There is I don't know how many sides, dozens. And it's all the negative thoughts that are happening and all the processes of people not being treated right. So I don't know. The answer is that we always tend to and always fall into war. Which is sad. War achieves nothing except white crosses on sand. All men's anger for young men's blood. It's never been any different and never will. If you want to find out the facts of what I'm saying, in the Vietnam War, these are statistics that I didn't make up. 2 congressmen's sons went to Vietnam. Now you think this is just an American thing. Let me tell you how it worked in Vietnam, in Ho Chi in Hanoi. All the rich politicians and businessmen in North Vietnam, all their kids went to Switzerland for educational purposes during the Vietnam War. No different. See what I'm saying? Absolutely no difference. The rich will look after their own, and they'll use young men's blood from the fields and the paddy fields to go fight a war for them. America was no different. Plenty of congressmen's sons were ineligible for the draft for one reason or another. Handy that, eh? That's not me having to go at Americans, by the way. That's me having to go at people who want to start wars but aren't willing to sacrifice for them. They want you to sacrifice for them. Which is wrong. If you have a cause in your heart and you feel strongly about it, like kings of old, they would hit the front field fighting. And many kings died fighting on the front line. None of our modern day kings go anywhere near the front line. They're in the jacuzzi. There'll be some guy walking saying, oh, another 30 dead. Oh well, send another 50 in. Irrelevance to the reality of life. I mean, there's so many times. The Vietnam War, for me, is when I grew up. I saw it unfold. And it was like, this is so wrong. Yet I realised that going back in time, every war was the same. There's no difference. Short history lesson. In 1915-16, Russia was at war with Germany, and Russians were getting beaten the hell out of. They really were. They weren't very good. They weren't well armed. They weren't well trained, and they lost so many men. But at the same time, it was under the rule of the Tsar, Nicholas, and the Tsarina and her 5 children. What ended up happening is a lot of the soldiers deserted the war, and they came home to Petrograd and Moscow, and eventually took over. That's when Lenin stood up from nowhere actually, because it was one of those weird revolutions in the beginning that didn't have a leader. It was the upswelling of the people, and what I talked about before about collectively feeling something that's not right or wrong. Well, the Russians did that, and the Bolsheviks, if you like, because there were several sides to that, Scarlett. You obviously know your history, the Bolsheviks. And they actually never end up ruling in their own right. And then they had a civil war. The Bolsheviks had a civil war. And eventually when they came close to where the Tsar and Tsarina and their children were being held, the Bolsheviks decided just to kill. Because there were many nations that got involved. The British got involved to try and save the Tsar and Tsarina. But King Nicholas and his wife and 5 children were taken down a cellar with the gunshots of liberation not far away, otherwise they would have been rescued and executed. So, yeah, so it wasn't just a war against Germany at the start, it was a war internally, civil unrest, followed by civil war. It was quite chaotic. So, it's a good size.
Block the camera.
It's one of those, for me, Scarlett, the Russian Revolution didn't have any Bolsheviks involved, didn't have any Lenin or Stalins, none of it. It was an uprising of the people who had had enough. It's the only one that I can see through history that really was the groundswell came from the population. They were starving, they were being asked to fight a war they didn't want to go to. Does it sound familiar, does it? And the people rose, and then the Bolsheviks stood up, took an opportunity. And Russia today is very different. Eventually, I forget when it was, I think it was something like, it was in the 90s, where they confirmed that they had found at the edge of a forest all of them, all the Nicholas, his wife and his 5 children were found. And then they gave them a state burial. So it's certainly not Bolsheviks running Russia. It's like China. You couldn't say at all that China is now fully communist, because they're not. They've been very opportunist. They've become very business-like. There are very, very many billionaires in China, trust me. That doesn't work under communism. We still have autocracy where there's one main leader, like in China there's one, and Putin just forever changes between president and prime minister, so he just keeps running the country. So autocratic systems still exist. But yeah, the world's not what it is in perception. There is no red threat. That's not true. You're still taught that though. Fear the communist. That worked in the 50s and 60s. Doesn't work now. And I wouldn't like to see it. Trust me, I wouldn't. But if any country at the moment was going to explode into civil unrest, it'd be the United States. There's so much anger against each other, each groups. There's so much self-interest by people that literally run the country, in other words, the money makers. People are just treated as commodities. It's terrible to see. Your minimum wage has increased, but it's awful. The cost of living has increased and there's been no wage rises. These circumstances were exactly the same in Russia in 1915. No wages, people going hungry, no future foreseeable for any improvement in your life. So if you want to go and look a bit about history and then compare it to where standards are today, that one country that is vulnerable for that type of civil unrest is the United States. The sad part is that the people that own the planet will determine who they will make top dog. You know, you would say, what's the, and it's not the richest country in the world, by the way, but who's the most powerful country in the world? It's the United States. But that's determined by the people that rule the planet, believe me. If they wanted to, they could make China the leader of the world very easily. You know, it's just someone at a big boardroom table smoking a very fat cigar saying, what do you reckon, guys? Let's not trade in the US dollar anymore? Yep, okay. Overnight, it could change. And I'm not trying to scare anyone, but they're facts. The determination of how oil is traded, or what is the currency that's backed by the world, is the US dollar. But it doesn't mean it will always stay that way. Anyway, no gloom talk, just, you know, my opinions based on what I see. That's the secret of any society, Scarlett, is to respect each other. Also, the fundamentals of a society is that a government looks after people's health and education without cost. It's an investment by the country to make sure that everyone is at best with their health. Some can't be helped, that's acceptable, unfortunately, but it's up to the country to provide good health and good education. It's in its own interest to do so. It is not in their own interest to say to people, you can have healthcare, but you'll pay so much you'll end up being poor all the time. It's ridiculous. Very proud of our country and other Commonwealth countries that have followed suit, where I can walk in tomorrow, like Tucker, and have exactly the same operation and it won't cost me a cent. How many in the US could say that? Without any healthcare, no private insurance, just straight off the street. That's a good thing. When you can have a country look after its people's health, you have people healthy enough to work. They don't rely on the social system. Imagine having someone being paid social security for 20 years, whereas if the health was provided prior and they could have lived a more fruitful life and worked, it's a lot cheaper to do that. Yeah, I think that would be the initial, Scarlett. I don't think that would be the continual, like if there was ongoing surgery required and x-rays, and it may be in some states, but it's not universal in the US. Not too bad here. I had an operation, I waited 4 weeks. Yeah, no, I could have probably been in within a few days, but I had an infection inside my body that had to get fixed first before they decided to open me up with a sabre. But that didn't cost anything. All I'm saying, if a nation looks after the health of its people, they'll work. Prices, inflation inflation on every continent in every era has been the catalyst for uprising. No, it wasn't a blood infection. They thought I had appendicitis, but it wasn't that. It was gallstone, and I had an infection with the gallstone. So they closed me up. They did go in. They closed me up, antibiotics for about 10 days, all good. And then they went back in and ripped out a kilo of gallstones. I kid you not. It was huge. That's why they opened me up like a penguin. But it fundamentally makes me angry when I've got friends in the US, many friends, over many, many years, who, like when Obamacare came in, just because of circumstances within each family, they were paying $4,500 a year for healthcare. Under Obama, they would have to have paid $15,500. They moved states, I'm not kidding you, to get a better equitable system for their healthcare. So in some states it's different, but you should be able to live freely and go around the US anytime you damn well please under the same healthcare. Yes, they did. Like a blood eagle. Look, I mean, like I say, the cost of someone not working their life is incredible in social services, in social payments, in substandard living, poor living standards, all those things. We're talking millions of dollars in resources. Whereas if you spent a X amount of dollars early on and tried to help somebody with their health, and then they work for all their life, they contribute to life. It's now in the black, it's not in the red. So I don't believe in the true social system where everyone should get everything for free, don't get me wrong. But the fundamental basics of healthcare should be free. That's my opinion, because what it means is that people will then get fixed, knowing they don't have to pay anything for it, and then they work. Yeah, I'm right with you, Scarlett, but if someone can't work because they're sick but can't get any health care because it's too expensive, they remain sick, is my point. Anyway, I'm not arguing with anyone, I'm just stating what I believe should be fundamental. Clean water, free health care, and that's about it. Not much further than that, because if you've got a healthy nation, they will work. You won't have millions and millions and tens of millions of people either not getting any social security payment because the system of like different levels of payments for sickness in the US are so varied. Sometimes they get awarded and sometimes they don't. It depends if you've got a state system that does that. Our doctors get paid privately. All doctors in Australia can and do work for different government hospitals, but they end up being private doctors who will do visits and do rounds through the wards. They get paid an X amount. There's a levy that we pay off our wages, and the doctors can't charge past a certain amount. Yeah, they don't go for school for 20 years. They go for normal general education like all of us. Most doctors do 5 years. Vets do 7 years. So if you ever need to go to an island and try and save yourself, take a vet with you, because they're the ones that have actually got the extra training. At 65 in Australia, depending on what money you have or assets you have, let's say you're just an average Joe, you will get paid something like $700 a fortnight, each person. That's the pension. You'll also get free rides on public transport, get half price off all your taxable rates, or things like electricity and water. You get half price car licensing fees, everything. When you get older in this country, we respect what you've contributed to the country, and as such you'll get different discounts. But you will get paid around about $1,500 to $1,600 a month just for being retired. In fact, if you're unemployed in this country, there's no such thing as 99 weeks in Australia. I've known people to be unemployed for all their life, and they get about $600 a fortnight. They get concessions as well. They get a health care card. Their medications are never more than about $3 or $4, no matter what it is. Hello, Itchy. But I'm not arguing with anyone. I just fundamentally believe that if a nation looks after the health of its people, they have healthy people to the best of their ability. My food stamps ready? Don't get food stamps in Australia.
We get a different system. People get vouchers.
Oh, there's plenty of private institutions that help people that are down and out as well, just like there would be in the US. But
We don't call them food stamps.
if you Google the word Centrelink, I might get the missus to put in the word, and then simply Google Centrelink payments for unemployed, it'll blow your socks off. Because I know you don't get any of this in the US like this. You do usually get paid for what you put in the US. So look for Centrelink unemployment payments. And if you're over a certain age or under a certain age, you get paid differently.
Yeah, we have food bin donations for people and animals.
We took a heap of food down to a food bank last week. Always do your charity if you can, at best, at home, in your local area. That's always good. I must have missed what Keegan said. He says, just asking questions.
It's turning. Oh, I don't know. I asked about the lawn and his lawn's turning green finally.
Oh, good. Ours is turning green. That's right. That's what my grandmother say. If you don't ask, you don't know.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
But we've had about 2 inches of rain. Hello, Roo. Yes. Even if you go back in ancient history, one of the main criteria were to keep people healthy. It's a fundamental. It's smart. You know what I mean? If I was running the country, I'd make sure at least people were healthy because they can work. And the more people that work, the more benefits everyone can share. Is that a socialist statement? Probably. But you get to earn a lot more if you work a lot harder, and that's what I agree. So that's not a socialist statement at all. We're not going to share the wealth of everybody with everyone. If someone works harder, hello Select, if someone works harder, they deserve larger rewards. Very simple. I don't understand people who believe that we should be given everything. That's not what I believe in at all. But I'll go on about this forever, that I truly believe that a nation's responsibility to its people is to keep them healthy. So that means free healthcare. There's no two bones about how you can word this. It's not free healthcare for some people and not for others. Even the richest person in Australia can walk in with me. Let's say I had an appendicitis operation and he had an appendicitis operation. It cost nothing for both of us. Why? We pay 11,000. If you earn $1 million, it cuts off. I think it cuts off at $1 million, where you pay 15,000.
I'm buffering.
Are you? I'm not seeing any buffing here. What did Kevin say? You should come here with the come here legally and don't worry about it, and he will take care of you. Universal problems in regards to refugees is ongoing. Well, yeah, no, we have a magnificent in Australia. Organisations for veterans. No veteran suffers here. There's plenty of problems with modern day veterans committing suicide. It's no different in the US as it is here. That annoys the shit out of me. There should be a bigger division within military operations for psychiatric and psychology.
Yes, you are buffering.
I'm buffering.
You.
Okay. All right. I'm not doing it on purpose. But you must look after those people. Look, I mean, I would like there to be no veterans, but there are, because stupid wars, nothing to do with the men that fight them. But they seem to be forgotten many times on many fronts. But in my country, we do as much as we can, but they still commit suicide. Modern day veterans, suicide rate is horrendous. But if we didn't have wars, there wouldn't be veterans. Anyway, I'm not harping on about that, but I do get angry when I see people who could probably work but can't afford healthcare. That annoys me. Well, that's a different sort of one then, Select, because in my country, you just pay a simple levy, 1.5% of your income each year. That's your healthcare taken care of, no matter what you earn. If you earn under a certain amount, you don't pay anything. Right? As you get older, you get different sort of healthcare benefits for elderly. Even if they're rich, doesn't matter. Everyone works hard during their life. They shouldn't be punished because they've saved money. That's not how it works here. But the fundamental right for anyone to walk in and get treated at no cost to them at all is important, because it means they, you know, this is the story that annoys me more than anything. Friends in the US of mine, we've got a really good friend who's not that well. He cannot afford to get health care. Okay? He can't afford to go to get the health care he needs. So he's dying. He just can't afford it. And that's very sad. Whereas if he is in my country, he could walk into anywhere and they'd say, all right, this is what you need. That's the bit that annoys me. It's a dollar sign first and people second. That annoys me. I'm not saying give everyone everything for free. I'm saying fundamental healthcare should be available to everyone. That's ridiculous, isn't it, Ray? Yeah, here's your private healthcare. We'll look after you. Oh, well, you've got to pay this. That's wrong. Like I say, if only the US would say, all right, we're going to charge everyone 2% of their wage, but there's free healthcare. What initially would happen, there'd be a swamping of all the doctors and hospitals, without doubt, no question. But then it would ease up, and the people would only go to the doctor when they're sick, instead of going to the doctor to have a chat. You know what I'm saying? Hello, doctor, I've got a sore toenail. I've just come in today to see if you can fit my toe. Oh, how's your daughter going? She's going well? Oh, yeah. And did you go for holiday in Aspen? Oh, I bet that was wonderful. All right, doctor, thank you for the aspirin for my sore toenail. See you next time. Have you heard those stories as well? More of a social visit than a physical one? Anyway, I've probably kept you up from far more important hangouts than this one. So I think the cute little one over there can say, hooroo, we'll check you later.
I'm writing.
Oh, okay. I'll just leave it on you. I don't know what you see because I've got the camera pointed at you.
I think next door's Chucky's trying to lay an egg. I don't know if they can.
I think it's been attacked by a raccoon. Yeah, we don't even have raccoons. Just that on a quick note regarding to getting certificates to say I don't have to work because I'm feeling sick. Man, we have a system here that you can't fool. If you're trying to pull that one here, just because you don't want to work and you want the free time and the payments, they'll burn you. Yeah, they'll look through you like a fine-tooth comb and say, no, you're full of shit. That's bullshit. Yeah, well, we just got vision of you going fishing, deep sea diving, throwing a big fish on board, going down the campfire drinking grog, and you say you have a disability? No money for you. Get back to work. Anyway, on that note, like I say, don't fight me. I just wish that every country would look after its people, not make them suffer because they can't afford healthcare. That's it. I'm not running for office. Have a good day. Enjoy what part of it is for you, nighttime, daytime, or whatever it is. See you next time. Now they're chickens. Under duress. I think she's trying to push one out. Yeah. It's a chicken's life.